Hey, it's Lee on your Marks Wrestling, and I'm here with a Backlash review for May 6th, 2018. Now, today is May 7th. I did not finish watching Backlash last night because I was too tired. It happens. And then Backlash was a hard show to watch on top of that. In case that gives you a feeling of how my mark's going to go at the end of the day, you are right. It's not going to be very high. So the show, I guess there was a pre-show. It had Bayley versus Ruby Riott. There's nothing special in this match. Bayley is sent to the outside at one point. There's a long commercial break. We just occasionally see Sasha watching in the back. There's a weird second rope springboard by Bayley that doesn't quite hit, but whatever. There's a top rope elbow that looked good from Bayley. She gets a near fall. Eventually, though, Liv Morgan jumps up on the apron. Riott throws Bayley into Morgan and hits the Riott kick for the eventual win. A very nothing match from two people that I kind of like, so I was hoping for a little bit more. Then we get the actual show starts with The Miz and Seth Rollins, and this was by far the best match of the night. I don't think anybody would argue against that. It's the only kind of saving grace of this show, in my opinion. So I'm going to have to lean in here because I wrote tiny notes. I don't know why I'm trying to save paper. I just bought a new notebook. It was very expensive, though, so maybe that's why. So The Miz gets his Miz kicks. Rollins tries to jump into the ring on a springboard, and Miz kicks him. It looked cool. There's a basement DDT after avoiding a sidekick from Rollins by The Miz. He gets near fall out of it. Rollins always sells the kind of low DDT very well. Rollins springboards into a skull-crushing finale, but then that's turned into a roll-up and gets a near fall. There's a top rope crossbody rolled through by Rollins, who turns it into a slam. I thought that was really cool. Rollins showing some strength. So The Miz going to the top rope and doing a really nice crossbody in the first place was impressive. But then Rollins rolling through and kind of doing the Cena pick him up move was cool. Rollins hits a frog splash and he gets a near fall out of that. Looked really good. Rollins tries to knee Miz but hits the post, and those posts make a lot of noise, so it sounded really cool. The Miz applies the figure four after Rollins hurts his knee on that post. Rollins manages to turn it around, put the pressure on The Miz. The Miz goes for another skull-crushing finale. Rollins tries to do a roll-up, but the Miz manages to get him back into the skull-crushing finale and actually hits it for a near fall. Rollins hits the superplex and then goes for the Falcon Arrow, but The Miz reverses it. And he hits the skull-crushing finale on a one-legged Rollins, I wrote, because Rollins hurts his leg. That's how The Miz manages to reverse it. But he doesn't get the win. Miz goes to the second rope, and he tries to do a skull-crushing finale from there. Rollins manages to fight him off. He tries to stomp The Miz, but he misses, and he hurts his knee again, his injured knee from earlier on. The Miz goes in, tries to get a roll-up, but Rollins manages to kind of avoid that, and he manages to stomp Miz and gets the win that way. This match had a lot going on. It was fast-paced. It was technically sound. It was everything that you want out of an opening match. Actually, it was everything you want out of a closing match. There's an idea for WWE, but it was good. So next we have Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss. Now, every match was started with a video package. They were fine, but there was nothing kind of really great in the video packages, in my opinion. They were just kind of rehashes of TV for the past couple weeks, so I didn't bother writing any kind of notes about them. Excuse me. So, Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss. Nia bends Bliss's arm at one point. Bliss does that double-jointed thing sometimes, so it looked kind of cool. Bliss attacks the legs of Jax, which makes sense. The little person should always do that. And she lands a really nice big kick to the head and similar kind of forearms to the head. So it looked kind of brutal. Bliss attempts a DDT, but Nia lands a Samoan drop instead. Nia misses a rolling senton, so she basically does a front flip onto her normally. Nia also attempts to climb the ropes for a second Samoan drop. Bliss counters it into a submission attempt. At one point, Nia hurls Alexa, so Alexa's on the top rope, and Nia kind of reaches back with both hands and hurls Alexa forward. Kind of like the old Flair spot, except without the body slam. It was just grabbing her arms and flicking her forward. It looked cool. Then she goes for what looks like a Vader bomb, but Alexa knocks her out of the ring. She hits the apron really hard and then hits the floor really hard. Nia doesn't usually take kind of violent bumps, but that looked pretty rough. At one point, Bliss DDTs Nia into the steps. It wasn't from a very big height, but it sounded cool. One of the storylines is that Bliss needs to get Nia back into the ring, and she's struggling because Nia is so much bigger than her. Nia Jax tries to go again for a second rope Samoan drop because earlier the single Samoan drop didn't quite do it. But Bliss manages to knock her down. Bliss tries to go for Twisted Bliss, but Nia catches her on her shoulder, kind of spins her over, and gets her into a Samoan drop position, hits it, and gets the win. My question is, if a regular Samoan drop was going to beat Bliss, why were you trying for second rope Samoan drops twice? I don't need a ton of logic. It's wrestling, but that seemed really stupid. If the regular Samoan drop's not good enough and she's trying these second rope Samoan drops, don't make the finish of the match a regular Samoan drop, or at least have her hit a move before she hits a regular Samoan drop. It was just kind of dumb. Then Renee Young is in the ring and she interviews Jax, and Jax cuts one of the most obnoxious promos you'll ever hear. It's the WWE trying to advertise their whole Be a Star program. In fact, she says the words Be a Star in her promo. At the end, she says the word ass to show that she's still a badass, right? She's still cool. So it's basically the modern equivalent of a rap song about not bullying people from the 90s. I hated it. I hate that so much. Nia is likable. Don't make her not likable by making her the voice of Stephanie McMahon in the ring. It's so stupid. Dasha interviews Samoa Joe, who runs down Roman pretty hard, as he should, and as he always does, because he's very good at what he does. Then we have Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton. The opening of the match is pretty much as you'd expect. Excuse me. Orton at one point crotches Hardy on the third turnbuckle, like the actual thing that goes from the pad to the post. It looked kind of bad. Hardy hits Poetry in Motion off of the steps outside. That was cool. Hardy tries a springboard, but Orton drop kicks him. A beautiful vertical drop kick. Really nice. He drops Hardy's back on the barricade 3 times, so basically his classic move that he does on the announce table, but he does it on the barricade instead. Hardy hits a Whisper in the Wind that doesn't miss, and Orton sells it appropriately. Then Orton hits his classic power slam, snap power slam, I'll call it. He gets a draping DDT on Hardy as well, but he doesn't get the pin. He tries an RKO, but it's countered by Hardy, who then hits the Twist of Fate and the Swanton Bomb and gets the win that way, gets to retain his championship. Elias is in the ring, announced by JoJo. He says that Bruce Springsteen calls him the boss, that he's good friends with Springsteen and he calls him the boss. He says that Springsteen says that his only regret is that he's from New Jersey. I actually thought Elias was kind of killing it. He threatens to leave, but he says that Bruce needs to hear what he's going to do, because he's basically saying he's a mentor to Bruce Springsteen. The New Day interrupts and offer to jam out with Elias. Elias says no, and he asks JoJo to reset things. She resets it, but then Aiden English interrupts. Rusev comes out. Rusev calls Elias a bootleg Bob Dylan. Fine. It's okay. Elias again asks JoJo to reset the mood. Then No Way Jose's music hits. Comes out with his conga line, which contains Titus Worldwide and Breezango. So they get their little kind of paycheck, I'm guessing. A flustered Elias resets the whole thing. And then he's interrupted by glorious Bobby Roode song. But Bobby Roode is already in the ring, and he hits Elias with a glorious DDT, and that's the end of that segment. This would have been a very, very good Raw segment. But as a pay-per-view thing, it's a waste of time. It should be a match. But I will say Elias' bit in this was quite good. Then we have Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass. What a nothing match this was. There's a missile dropkick by Daniel Bryan, which makes me wince every time. Then he hits his yes kicks. There are 2 running drop kicks, but then Cass just kind of throws Bryan straight up in the air. He lands on his face. A series of clotheslines by Cass. Cass misses a big boot and Bryan attempts a yes lock / crossface. He kind of gives up on the yes lock at one point. Cass fights it off a little bit at first, but then he taps almost immediately once Bryan locks it in. I don't know why he didn't just fight it at least 3 seconds before tapping out. It was weird. After the match, Cass attacks the celebrating Bryan, hits him with the big boot, and that's pretty much the end of it. The next match is Charlotte Flair versus Carmella. Carmella sells air on the big boot as the first move of the match. She really doesn't even get touched. One cool move is that Charlotte hits a kind of mule drop kick where she basically jumps up, kicks back behind her, and does a front flip out of a hold. That's okay. Carmella stretches Charlotte around the ring post. Charlotte hits a spear and a big boot for a near fall. Charlotte attempts a moonsault inside the ring, not outside. And she tweaks her knee on the landing, so it becomes a storyline. Carmella attacks that knee and then just stacks up Charlotte for the win. It was really anticlimactic. I don't know why, but I really wished that Charlotte at least attempted to kick out on that thing. Like, kick out on 3.5. Make it a win, but make it so that you still had something in the tank. Because, like, Charlotte had been kind of doing well in this match, and Carmella just kicks her leg, and all of a sudden Charlotte forgets to kick out. It made no sense. It was too quick a finish. It was the right finish. I actually wanted Carmella to win. I just thought the way they got there was sloppy and uneventful and not thought out. There were so many little tweaks that could have happened to this show and made it a lot better. I'm not going to say it would have made it great, but it would have made it a lot better. Pretty much every decision that was made in this in terms of finishes, I'm not an expert. I do watch a lot of wrestling, as you can tell from this channel, but I'm not an expert. But I will say every single finish of these matches felt like the wrong finish. Almost every single one of them. So then next we have Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles, and you're going to hear more of that. Lots of outside stuff, like Nakamura being thrown into the barricades, or Styles being thrown into the stairs. It's a no disqualification thing. Styles tries to jump off of the barricade, but Nakamura kicks him in the leg, and Styles kind of lands on the barricade. That looked pretty cool. There's a second rope knee by Nakamura at one point for a near fall. He then hits a landslide, which is a cool looking move, and he gets another near fall. He hits a reverse exploder onto a chair. Cool. It's the first foreign object used in this whole match. He attempts a Kinshasa, but AJ Styles throws the chair at Shinsuke's knee. So Shinsuke grabs his knee, but the chair bounces off his knee and hits Styles in the face and actually cuts him up pretty good. So he gets quite bloodied up. And as you know, I've mentioned this a few times, but I actually like blood in my matches, so I was cool with that. Basically, there's a calf crusher by AJ Styles at that point. He attempts a Styles clash, but Nakamura low bridges him, we'll say. Then Nakamura gets up and AJ Styles returns the favor. That's cool, eye for an eye kind of stuff. Shortly after that, they both go for a kick to the groin, and they both land it. They both fall to the ground, and neither of them is able to stand up to the 10 count. And that's essentially the end of the match. What a terrible finish to a match that wasn't that bad. It was far from good, but I don't know. Styles can make any match good. Nakamura used to be, I don't know, early on with WWE and NXT, I thought his matches were really good. Now they're getting a little weaker, but whatever. There was enough drama in this match that it could have been good with any kind of real finish. The next match is Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Strowman's greatest Royal Rumble trophy is there. I don't know how many people had to carry that thing out because it's way oversized. Lashley does a lot of the heavy lifting early on in this match. Zayn and Owens managed to finally gain an advantage when they kind of do a tandem cheating thing on the outside. Strowman gets eventually tagged in, and he does the chase thing where he chases Sami Zayn, knocks Kevin Owens over, finally catches Zayn. It's cool. I like seeing Strowman running around, being fast. That's cool. Sami tries to just kind of run away from the match, just doesn't want to fight it anymore, and Owens kind of yells at him. And then Sami Zayn throws Owens into the ring with Strowman so he can face him. Owens basically gets tossed out eventually, and he goes and grabs Zayn and throws Zayn into the ring. Zayn, before even getting touched, runs away, leaving just Owens in the ring. And Owens gets vertical suplex, the delayed suplex by Lashley, and pinned that way. After the match, Strowman hits the powerbomb on Owens, and then he hits the powerbomb on Zayn, as you should expect. This match was kind of garbage. It did do a little bit to break up Zayn and Owens, but not enough to completely do it. I'm like, WWE are really terrible right now at breaking up friendships. They're just not good at it. If you're gonna do it, do it. So yeah, another, last 3 matches or so have really anticlimactic endings, and we're gonna get the last one, and you're gonna hear the same story. So it's Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe. Joe is so over with the crowd, and Reigns is hated by the crowd. Well, in this crowd, he's kind of half and half, but he's not beloved, and that's the most important thing. Joe attacks Reigns before the match, Uranagi's him through an announce table, then tosses him over 2 other tables. Tons of rest holds. So many rest holds. Who in the world books rest holds in the final match of a night of terrible matches? It makes no sense. Then Joe... I wrote that Joe catching Reigns during a drive-by. So Reigns goes for a drive-by, and Joe kind of backs out and then reaches out and grabs Reigns and pulls him into the ring. It looked kind of cool, I guess. Reigns hits a spear, but Joe gets his foot on the rope at one point. Joe attempts the coquina clutch, but Roman Bret Hart's out of it, meaning he kind of flips his body over and goes for the pin. Gets a near fall out of it. Reigns tries to roll up Joe off the ropes, but he gets caught in a coquina clutch. This time it's much tighter. Reigns manages to kind of spin his body out of it and grab the ropes to a chorus of boos. And this is your good guy, but fine, whatever. Reigns eventually is in the corner. Joe's beating on him. Joe goes to kind of hit him, and Reigns jumps over him, flips out to the other side of the ring, then runs back and spears Joe and gets the win that way. The match, the whole pay-per-view ends on a bit of a kind of lame ending, but anything with Roman Reigns lately feels that way. And you basically have something like 5 out of, is it 8 or 9 matches? I would say 6 or 7 out of the matches just having flat finishes. Is Pat Patterson not around anymore? I don't know what the deal is, but this pay-per-view from a finish standpoint was garbage. From a wrestling standpoint was below average, but not horrible. There was one good match on this card, a couple decent matches on this card, and a whole lot of kind of bad matches on this card. I always rate these things out of 10. I've never given a score less than 5.5. I don't think I'll ever give a score less than 5. But just based on the decisions made here and how nothing has changed from this pay-per-view, the multi-brand thing is dumb too. It makes you not care about certain matches. I don't know. I think there are so many bad decisions made on this card. I can't give it a high score. I'm going to go ahead and just give it a 5 out of 10 because I'm a nice person. That's as high as I can go. Thanks for watching. I will have Raw reviews coming next.